Nick Fuentes. Get in here now.
Get in here,
See
woman.
the great control I have around here. You need a Andrew,
Get
take it
your
like you need
ass
to have
in
a
here,
shock collar.
woman.
Bzz, bzz, bzz. All right, I'm gonna stop. No, getting serious. Speaking about who needs a shock collar. No, I shouldn't go there. She'll say it's true. It's a coded Illuminati threat.
Raggedy ass mother.
It's probably her husband actually wearing the shock collar. No, but seriously, Candace Owens, I don't like to say stuff without showing it. Here she is. I didn't understand this. Now Charlie Kirk is a time traveler, and the guy they sent back to the future to try to save him is Mitch Snow. Here it is.
Why did Charlie think he was a time traveler?
What the
He
fuck?
said, as I
For
showed you in
real,
earlier
though?
messages, that he was a time traveler and he had to find
crazy.
me. Is that just something people are saying to their homies in text messages? And again, not anything that I would have placed so much emphasis.
All right. I've been interviewing Nick Fuentes for at least 9-10 years, and I do not apologize for having him on. That said, I've disagreed with some of the things he said or his direction on things, but I will always be clear. You can't have the Democratic Party and the left all over the world, Islamicists and the leftist Jewish groups and Hollywood literally saying Christians and Catholics are inherently bad. White men are bad. White should be eradicated, New York Times. Whiteness is a disease. Whiteness is a cancer. I could show you, you've seen it, hour-long compilations of the news saying it. So they're the ones that have created
We
this
have
incredible
anti-Semitism in our DNA.
anti-Western, anti-Christian garbage. And so what do you expect people to do? So then you have somebody like Nick, conservative, on record when he's 12, involved in
Spitting
politics,
facts.
doing stuff at the national level by the time he's 18 because he's successful and smart. Gets fired,
Well, he's sick as a dog.
by the
man.
Ben Shapiro folks because he asked questions. They try to destroy him, and he's instantly even more successful over the last 8 years of incredible persecution. So I've gone through a lot of the same stuff he has,
Listen to this guy.
and I've been successful when I was very young as well, but not as young as him. I mean, I was on air when I was 20 and big by 25 or so, but not as, and it's not about who's big or whatever. It's a phenomenon. And it's because Nick is charismatic, he is smart, and he knows what he's talking about. And so when other people that are informed, whether they're liberals or conservatives, they know, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. He can debate Heritage Foundation, top people. He can debate, top people from the Hoover Institute, you name it, and wipe the floor with them because he knows the facts up one side and down the other. And I respect that because I do constant research.
He is well read.
And I learn a lot from Nick Fuentes.
Very well read.
So where we're at here is you can overall say, well, I don't, go as far as he does. And I get it. He has fun. He admits it. He laughs and says, sorry. They don't. A 9-year fight.
There we go.
Then you have these interlopers.
There we go.
You then have these pretenders to the throne of doing this,
This is live.
coming in
I only
and trying
went
to
back
remove
15
him from his
minutes or
house
so.
and say it's theirs. That is what we're talking about here. And that's the sleight of hand. And it's not about Nick being the big guy or me being the big guy. It's about the integrity of it. To win this fight, they need to remove us from intellectual leadership roles so they can sabotage it. This is about infighting. This is about we're under attack at every level. We've not really addressed it until now. It's got to be done. So, Nick, that's my rant. I apologize for making you hold for 10 minutes while I hit it. We might need to start there. They're going to geopolitics, everything. In fact, let's just, I said, where do you want to go first? You said, wherever you want. Let's go into this big picture. It's a lot. I'm going to try to shut up. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for the great introduction. And I think you're totally right. This is kind of the most salient thing, which is happening on the right wing, over the past couple of years, ever since October 7th. Of course, everybody is talking about there is this great awakening or a raising of the consciousness with regard to the issue of Israeli influence. And this is something that for a long time, this is perhaps why it's so significant, for a long time, this issue was totally taboo. It was actually borderline illegal. And as you know, and as other people know on the right wing, there was literally no room at all for any skepticism, any criticism of any kind on this position.
You were
Everything was
misogynist.
categorized as hateful, anti-Semitic, and it would get you removed from your job,
Everything.
ostracized.
HR.
You were just not allowed inside the movement. And so what happened after October 7th, in addition to some of the free speech on the internet, Elon Musk acquiring Twitter, some liberalization of the terms of service on other platforms like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, is that people started to ask questions. Why are we supporting this country? Why are we giving them all this foreign aid? Why are we fighting their wars? Among other things, a lot of legitimate questions. And I think you and I talked about this a lot, and other people did too. Question is, where does the Israel lobby go from here when it seems that everybody is hip? Everybody is now wise to their game. And it is, like you said, this is the zeitgeist. And it's not about me and it's not about you as,
We don't
as
want to play this
personalities.
game
It's
anymore.
about the issues. It's about the substance. And these ideas have penetrated the mainstream discourse and they have entered into the zeitgeist. And now it's people of all ages from everywhere in the country, all socioeconomic classes. I hear about working class people talking about this. I hear about professional managerial class people talking about this. White people, not white people, men, women, young, old.
Yeah.
And so everybody's wondering, well, what do they do? Because they can't get they can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. They can't put the genie back in the lamp. So what's their play? And I think back to an article which was written by Cass Sunstein about 15 or 20 years ago.
He's very
He was an
well read.
Obama admin official. I believe he's from out of Harvard. And they said, so what are we to do about these conspiracy theorists and all the misinformation and disinformation on the internet? This is back in, I think, 2007. And they said, well, there's a few obvious strategies. We can debate the conspiracy theorists and try to prove them wrong and debunk them. We can censor the conspiracy theorists and deprive them of a platform so they can't spread their
They
misinformation.
love doing that.
They said, but both of these strategies kind of give opportunities to the conspiracy theorist. If you debate them, you're entertaining them and in a way legitimizing them and in another way giving them a platform. If you're censoring them, you're turning them into martyrs and you're almost proving them right. If you ban everybody for saying certain things, well, people are going to take a look at what those things are. They're going to say, why are those ideas or statements being censored? So they came up with a novel third option, which is to flood the zone with crap.
Oh, man.
And
they do
basically
this
they
on
muddy
X.
the waters. And so they introduce all this other stuff where you have legitimate, I would say, conspiracy theories. And these are just ideas that powerful people have ulterior motives. They have a concealed agenda and they work together. That's not crazy. That's reality. And everybody knows that's the way the world works. Powerful people get together at Davos or they get together at Bilderberg or wherever, all these secret
All over the
societies
place.
and political people, government people, media people, rich people, they get together and they work together for an agenda and they don't tell the public about it. And it's probably corrupt. We all know this is happening and we try to figure out where it's happening and the substance of that agenda. But then you have other people that come out and they posit that there is a grand conspiracy that somewhere underground, people are getting together and plotting out the whole future of the universe and the earth is flat and lizard people are real. And they will say just a lot of nonsense. And I do believe that this is actually the strategy, which is to inflame and create division within the movement, within the America First movement, within the Israel critical movement. In other words, people that are against the Israel First lobby, and to try to introduce a lot of nonsense to discredit.
It seems like that's always Israel's play. They want a lot of small factions that they can control. They don't want one solid group to fight. They want a bunch of small ones bickering amongst each other. That's like their thing.
Divide,
that's their shtick.
And they lay this out, actually. Heritage Foundation, which you mentioned earlier, they're the preeminent conservative think tank. They put out something called Project Esther a couple of years ago. And you can look this up. It's online. You can read through it. And what it says specifically is they want to create a public and private partnership between government and the private sector, nonprofits, to combat what they call anti-Semitism. They brand it as the Hamas Support Network. So anybody that doesn't want to go to war with Iran, anybody that doesn't want to genocide the kids in Gaza, anybody that doesn't want to give them all these missiles, they're branding them as the Hamas Support Network. You're all terrorists.
Disgusting.
And they say, how are we going to fight back against those that are criticizing Israel's policy? They say, well, we are going to create infighting within that scene. They said, we are going to exacerbate and inflame all of those cleavages that exist between the various factions that are criticizing Israel. And I think you're seeing that play out right now. And it's true that it is a broad group of people that are criticizing Israel's government and their regime and what they're doing from all different walks of life and from different reasons. But I've been saying on my show, it's important to differentiate who they are and who we are. For example, a guy like Max Blumenthal, he's on Tucker, he's on Judge Napolitano. And I like these shows. I watch these shows. It's a good source of alternative information. But Max Blumenthal is a leftist. Yeah. I remember when Max Blumenthal was working for the SPLC and doing hit pieces on David Irving. That's who he is. The reason that he is against Israel, it's not because he's an America First right-wing patriot. It's because he's actually a super leftist, a super liberal, and he sees Israel as a staging ground for imperial capitalism. That's totally different. And so, in a sense, we're both against what Israel is doing, but for very different reasons. And so, for example, when these ICE protests broke out, when they investigated the fraud in Somalia and that woman was killed, Renee Good, people like you and I think all said she tried to run over an ICE agent. ICE is carrying out their lawful duties. There's 10 million illegals. They got to go out. Well, Max Blumenthal, the big Israel critic, he goes on Twitter and says, well, this is terrorist capitalism. When ICE deports illegals and shoots protesters to try to run them over, that's terror capitalism. Terror capitalism. And it's like, look, I'm not a communist. Okay, I'm critical of Israel because I don't like genocide and I'm America First, but I'm not a communist.
And that's what you're getting. No, that's what you've been nailing is just because we don't like Israel trying to run the U.S. the things it does, which is healthy as a zeitgeist to get over that and criticize it, to get over political correctness in general, doesn't mean we're allied with Islam, doesn't mean we're allied with the left, doesn't mean we're allied with all this garbage. And that's what they're trying to do right now. And I notice these classic liberals, leftist, by classic, I mean modern classic leftist, are like our leaders now, and they decide who's good. And now the left has articles praising MAGA that's turned against Trump and praising them for, now doing this. And it's not like they're criticizing Trump to make him better. They're doing it to bring it down. And whereas you've been critical where Trump's really wrong, I've noticed, though, you've been a little more positive lately because you see him getting more hardcore.
Well, and that's a really important point that you just said. The far left, when they say pedo protector, when they attack him over Epstein, they don't care about Epstein. Biden was there for 4 years. They didn't care about Epstein then. No, they care about it now because they can create division within MAGA, and they want Trump to go down because they don't want deportations. It's not for any other reason. So it's important not to get it twisted. Fundamentally, we are a conservative, patriotic movement. And like you say, I criticize Trump because I want him to be the best, not because I want to bring it all down and have some left-wing progressive like Mamdani in power to socialize everything. We have to remember to take our own side. And our tribe and who is looking out for us is patriotic Americans that love the flag, that want borders, that want actually law and order, sensible policies, not these like Jewish communists that are screeching about terror capitalism, not people like Mamdani that say they want to tax white neighborhoods more to pay for everybody's benefits. That's not what we're about. So I think 26 is a year we got to start drawing some lines and making some refinements.
Well, stay there. Then let's come back and talk more about this because this is the big future issue that's already here. And whereas we've been sitting back and watching this, they're now trying to police everything we're doing, trying to demonize us. And
the tongue give you an instant relaxing.
Okay, why do we have to have the music? Real though. Why do we have to have
vasodilation in?
Yeah, that's not good.
Welcome to the Great Reset. Eat the bugs.
Right, that now.
I'm not.
I want to finish up with this civil war
it's not like
inside MAGA that the left's trying to orchestrate,
or
and the different factions that are there that are kind of using old Fisher lines from real intellectual battles that you had in the last decade that they've tried to exacerbate. And then I want to move on to, I've seen you warm to Trump because you are seeing him finally get more hardcore, or at least signal he's starting to go in the right direction. I want to elaborate on that. Nick Fuentes.
Yeah, I'm warming up a little bit to Trump in the past couple of weeks. I mean, some of the things he's been doing are positive. I still have a lot of the same apprehensions about the
you can't throw the baby out with the bad wath.
We could get into that, but kind of picking up on where we left off before. The thing is about when you wake up with regard to Israel and the red pill and all these things.
I agree.
I think what tends to happen with a lot of people is when you destroy the credibility of the mainstream media. When you destroy these narratives you believed in for your whole life, it's easy then to become completely disoriented. And then you don't, like you said before, you don't know where to look. You don't know what's going on, where the problem's coming from. And I think this is the experience of a lot of people in the past couple of years.
OPEC.
People have started to wake up. They've gotten red pilled in 2024, 2025 recently. And I said this on Telegram. This is kind of like a subtle thing that I hope maybe your viewers can kind of understand if you'll stay with me here a little bit. A lot of people that have gotten very engaged in politics and on this issue in the past couple of years, they're not actually political people. They're not actually conventionally political people. They're not interested in political issues necessarily. I call them disgruntled normies. And so there are a lot of people that didn't really pay attention, but something has been happening lately, and this is maybe a bit suspicious, which is that all of a sudden, our timelines on Instagram and Twitter and everywhere, TikTok even, it's filled with this kind of content, conspiracy content, Israel critical content, that sort of thing. And the reason I say that it's a little bit suspicious, of course, I benefited from it, profited from it, from an ideological point of view, from a monetary point of view. I'm happy about it. It's the kind of content that I post, and it's the kind of ideas that I promote. But as we know, for 10 years, it was the complete opposite. Yeah, if anyone even hinted at those sorts of things, they were immediately eradicated. And so much effort went into this. AI algorithms and moderation teams, and the rules kept getting more.
And prior to this era, you had Bill Buckley and National Review that would just torpedo the shit out of you and smear you. You know, that's what they did to Pat Buchanan. You know, they did it to him like 3 elections in a row.
More convoluted. Now, all of a sudden, it's everywhere, and it's on all the platforms for everybody. And you could be on Instagram for 5 minutes, and then you're getting a clip about how Israel did 9/11. You're getting a clip, and it's an AI translated Hitler speech. And so it's sort of a mystery why that happened and what was the driving force behind it. Nevertheless, it happened. And so suddenly all these new people have been drafted into the ranks, let's say, of truth tellers, red pillars, and it's great. You know, the more the merrier, welcome in. Here's the issue, though, with the disgruntled normie. Many of the disgruntled normies are still very left-leaning. They still have many of what you would call their ideological priors. And by that, I mean they're kind of foundational ideas about morality and the world and how it works. And so they're basically still a left-leaning normie, like a center-left normie that doesn't know that much about politics. They didn't go through a libertarian phase. They didn't go through a conservative phase. They kind of started as a Redditor, and now they have these facts, armed with some of these facts. And as I've said on my show, I think this makes people vulnerable to ideological capture by other groups. And I think about communists, which I mentioned earlier, and I also think about Muslims too. Because as we talked about before the break, everybody's criticizing Israel because the genocide is appalling. Everybody does not want to get into another war in the Middle East. But of course, all these different ideological groups have different reasons for opposing it. And so we talked about communists. How about Muslims? What is the reason that Muslims are against Israel, don't want America to intervene, are against the genocide? Well, it's because they have some kinship with the Palestinians, either ethnic or religious. They have some kinship with those people. And that's not really quite the same, because me, I'm born in America. I'm not a Muslim. I don't have any Arab DNA. I don't really care about those issues because it's close to home or close to my heart. I care about these issues because of America, because America's getting involved in something that isn't good for America. It's not really quite the same with these other groups. And so I see these people on Telegram, on Twitter every day, and there's a very fine line between saying these wars are bad for America because they're unnecessary, and people that are saying these wars are evil colonialist wars and America is evil and America is spreading terrorism. And you get a lot of the latter with many of these very organized Muslim influencers on the internet who are saying that America is evil, Israel's evil, and America's evil too. And some will even say, by the way, that Israel is an extension of America and that America's the real problem. America's a crusader state. And so I see some Muslim influencers, they say, we need to restrain America technologically. We need America to take a hit. We need them.
No matter how you cut it, we're squandering our goodwill around the world for these fucking pieces of shit in their little desert oasis.
To get knocked down a peg because they're responsible for all the problems in the world. And you go, wait a second. So you're not rooting for America. You don't want what's best for America. You're angry at America. You're angry at America because your people were being bombed. You came here as a refugee or something. And I'm sorry. I don't care what mistakes America has made. I'm never going to hate America. It's my country. I love America. I'm proud of America. And so this is where patriots need to kind of, as I said before, differentiate and start to distinguish and say, we are America first. I am not a third worldist, anti-colonial, anti-imperialist, anti-Western, peoples of the world unite, whatever. No, I'm America first. And I want whatever is best for America, even if that means, by the way, certain interventions like in Venezuela. And I'm not rooting for America to fall because
and I want to get to that. I want to get to that in great detail because you have a really good analysis of that. We'll look at it. Just going back to this for a moment. Just because we don't want Israel running our country and censoring us and controlling us doesn't mean then we hook the caboose of Islam and Soros and the left and all their garbage and Mondami onto it. And that's what they're trying to do, is a sleight of hand. And then when you point that out, now they've successfully captured so many new people that woke up that they go, oh, Nick works for Israel because he doesn't want to open the doors to Islam. And it's like, no, you've said that Israel certainly uses Islam in the West as a distraction.
They do.
But still, at the end of the day, Islam does want to take over. So it's being honest about there are multiple groups, multiple things to deal with and understand. But if you pull back to all of this, I know where it's going. Look at Australia. You got these Muslims. They shoot a bunch of people. They're at the beach, Bondi Beach. And then the government comes out and says white supremacy is the main threat. And we're going to pass these anti-Semitism laws. It's called the anti-Semitism law. And I've got the law here. It's like 70 pages long. It lets them arrest you because you might say something. You can't criticize anything. The government can say anything they want is illegal. They can ban any group. And it is a literal iron curtain beyond the Soviet Union. And that's the ADL branch that wrote that. The same stuff in Europe, same thing in the UK that they want here. The same thing being passed in Canada. So we know they're going to push all this.
These people are awful, man.
And they're gonna let all the craziness go online. And I'm not saying censor it, but literally they promote and push the most crazy, ridiculous, made up stuff. So a lot of people that are smart go, well, none of this is true because it's just so ridiculous. But also the mentally ill then are going to go out and attack. So you don't have to go stage a false flag yourself. You just create the environment and the atmosphere like the Kingsman where the cell phone sends the signal. Well, the message is the signal. And then when that happens, now we come in with the mass censorship and control. And that's what they're planning. That's what they're doing. And also,
they get their